What if from today forward, your mind became an impenetrable fortress that no external force could control? Imagine living by Machiavelli's principles, where no insult pierces your armor, no rejection weakens your resolve, and no betrayal disturbs your equilibrium. Consider this. How many times have you allowed someone's words to dictate your emotional state? How often have you replayed a moment, wishing you had responded with the calculated precision of a master strategist, rather than the reactivity of an amateur? We have all experienced it. We have all felt the weight of uncontrolled emotions, witnessing how they diminish our standing in the eyes of others. But here is the Machiavellian truth that vulnerability ends the moment you consciously choose to dismantle it. This examination is not about becoming devoid of feeling or abandoning your humanity. It is about becoming intellectually sovereign. Machiavelli himself understood that true dominion begins with mastering oneself first. When you command your emotions, no one possesses leverage over you. When you control your impulses, no one can orchestrate your behavior, and no one can strip away your inner fortitude. In the following analysis, I will present 8 foundational principles derived from Machiavellian philosophy that will enable you to construct an intellectual and emotional stronghold. You will discover how to cease reacting impulsively, how to think with strategic clarity rather than momentary impulse, and how to conduct yourself in a manner that renders you immune to manipulation. But before we proceed, I ask you to internalize this truth immediately. Acknowledge it, write it, make it your foundation. I am stronger than any emotion that seeks to control me. Own this declaration, because the moment you accept this principle, you have already begun your ascent toward becoming truly untouchable. Principle 1. Destroy emotional vulnerability. Machiavelli recognized a fundamental truth that most overlook. The source of most human suffering is not scarcity, status, or lack of opportunity. It stems from the inability to govern one's emotional responses. People become offended with excessive ease. They succumb to sadness at the slightest provocation. They ignite in anger without deliberation. And with each occurrence, they willingly surrender their autonomy to another. Consider this carefully. When someone demeans you and you respond with uncontrolled fury, who truly wields power? Not you. That person has pulled your strings as though you were a marionette. When someone disregards you and you descend into worthlessness for days, who maintains control? Again, not you. They do. This is the essence of emotional vulnerability. It is the abdication of your will to the emotions manipulated by others. Machiavelli warned that vulnerability becomes prey. People will test your composure. They will attempt to provoke your reactions. The moment you succumb and respond emotionally, they have achieved victory. Machiavelli wrote, "He who wishes to be obeyed must know how to command." How can you command others if you cannot even command yourself? The pathway to genuine autonomy begins with mastering your reactions. This requires training your mind to pause before responding. When someone shows you disrespect, deny them the satisfaction of witnessing your loss of control. When adversity confronts you, do not protest its unfairness. Demonstrate resolve. This does not mean extinguishing your emotions. They are intrinsic to human existence. Rather, you must learn to govern them, to ensure they serve your will rather than become instruments of your subjugation. Think of your emotions as fire. When controlled, fire provides warmth, sustenance, illumination. When uncontrolled, fire consumes everything you have built. Begin with small practices. When someone offers an irritating remark, resist the urge to respond immediately. Pause. Remain silent. Allow them to wonder about the workings of your mind. That uncertainty itself becomes your power. The person who maintains composure always appears stronger. This is the secret. Machiavelli knew the world respects mastery. Societies place trust in leaders who preserve calm amid chaos. The individual who cannot be moved emotionally becomes the most formidable presence in any room. Therefore, make this commitment to yourself today. Never again will you grant your emotional sovereignty to another. No one deserves that authority except you. Repeat this with conviction. I am the master of my feelings, not their servant. Write it. Internalize it. When you destroy emotional vulnerability, you cease being controlled and begin becoming unstoppable. Principle 2. Adopt the Machiavellian mindset. Strategy over emotion. Machiavelli observed that most people exist in a state of constant reaction. Someone insults them, anger emerges. Someone praises them, they soar. Someone ignores them, they feel diminished. This perpetual emotional oscillation keeps people weak, predictable, and vulnerable to manipulation. But Machiavelli saw differently. To achieve victory in life's contests, one cannot operate as a reactor. One must operate as a strategist. A strategist does not move according to feeling. A strategist moves according to calculation. This constitutes the fundamental difference between the wise and the foolish. Machiavelli stated, "The wise man does at once what the fool does finally." What does this mean? The wise man perceives the game clearly and executes the superior move with urgency. The fool, blinded by emotion, wastes time reacting, complaining, pursuing fleeting feelings. Reflect on your own life. How many times have you made a consequential error because you acted while seized by anger, consumed by jealousy, or driven by desperation? Perhaps you sent a message in rage that you later regretted. Perhaps you abandoned an endeavor too soon because discouragement overwhelmed you. Perhaps you extended trust to someone because momentary euphoria clouded your judgment, only to experience betrayal afterward. This is the cost of emotional governance. Yet, when you adopt the Machiavellian strategy, you transform your foundational question. Instead of asking, "What do I feel right now?" you ask, "What is the strategically superior move?" Consider an example. Someone attempts to demean you before an audience. If you explode in anger, you appear weak and immature. If you smile with composure, you have already triumphed. Why? Because you maintained control, and all observers now perceive you as the stronger participant. That is strategy transcending emotion. Apply this principle to relationships. Many people allow emotion to blind them to reality. They overlook warning signs because temporary pleasure overwhelms their judgment. But the strategist sees beyond words and emotional states. He examines motives. He studies patterns. He understands that people's declarations matter far less than their conduct. He recognizes that words are often illusion, but actions constitute truth. To cultivate this perspective, you must train your intellect to withdraw and observe. Each time a powerful emotion surges within you, pause. Pose this question: if I react immediately, who benefits? Then ask, if I remain calm and contemplate, what advantage do I gain? This momentary pause represents the distance between being played and becoming the player who controls the game's outcome. This approach does not render you heartless. It renders you formidable. While others remain submerged in their emotional turbulence, you perceive the larger architecture. You position yourself steps ahead. You remain calm, sharp, and untouchable. Therefore, internalize this truth. Strategy will carry you further than emotion ever could. Declare this now: I perceive the game with clarity and execute with intelligence. Write it. Own it. When you select strategy over emotion, you transform from a piece on the board to the player manipulating the board itself. Principle 3. Build mental autonomy. Liberation from external validation. One of the most insidious traps that Machiavelli identified was humanity's desperate hunger for approval from others. Most people do not even recognize the extent to which they depend upon it. They broadcast something online and their psychological state fluctuates based on digital metrics. They acquire new attire and await compliments to experience satisfaction. They make decisions while silently questioning, what will others conclude about me? This is not freedom. This is psychological bondage. Because if your sense of worth derives from another's judgment, you have surrendered the keys to your consciousness. Machiavelli articulated this penetrating observation: men judge generally more by the eye than by the hand. His meaning was precise. Humans typically judge based on appearance rather than substance. If you construct your existence upon their assessments, you perpetually chase illusions instead of cultivating genuine strength. Consider how capricious popular opinion proves to be. Today people celebrate you. Tomorrow they condemn you. Today you embody heroism. Tomorrow you become villainy. If your sense of self rises and falls with these shifting winds, you will never achieve stability. You will perpetually be governed by forces external to yourself. What constitutes the solution? Develop mental autonomy. Autonomy signifies self-governance. It means your value emanates from within, not without. When you liberate yourself from external validation, you become immovable, steadfast, and truly free. Here is the pathway first. Become conscious when you crave approval. Ask yourself this question. If no one witnessed this accomplishment, if no one applauded, would I still feel genuine pride? If the answer is no, you understand that you perform for an audience rather than for yourself. You are not living authentically. Second, commence providing yourself the validation you typically anticipate from others. Rather than awaiting external praise, communicate directly to yourself. I executed this well. I merit recognition. Though this may feel awkward initially, you are reprogramming your psychology to eliminate dependence on external affirmation. Third, acknowledge this reality. The people whose approval you pursue are typically consumed with their own existence. They think of you far less frequently than you imagine, so why grant them such dominion over your psychological state? When you release the need for external validation, you become powerful in the most significant way. People cannot govern you through praise, nor can they diminish you through criticism. You remain rooted in your authentic identity, autonomous and unshakable. Repeat this affirmation with force. My worth is inherently mine, independent and immovable. Write it. Embed it into your consciousness. Once you master this principle, no external force can determine your value again. Principle 4. Eliminate personal weaknesses that concede power. Machiavelli recognized that sometimes it is not the grand errors that strip us of our authority. Instead, it emerges from small, everyday patterns, behaviors we consider inconsequential, such as excessive explanation, oversharing, or displaying heightened emotion in inappropriate contexts. Yet here resides a critical truth. Each instance concedes a portion of your power. Contemplate this dynamic. When someone questions you and you urgently provide explanations repeatedly, what message transmits? You communicate insecurity, guilt, or desperation for their comprehension. A person of genuine strength requires no excessive justification. A person of genuine strength articulates their position once, with composure, then moves forward. Now consider the habit of oversharing. Many mistakenly believe that transparency cultivates respect. In reality, excessive revelation of your inner life, your anxieties, your secrets, and your struggles furnishes others with weaponry. Some will exploit this intelligence to control you, manipulate you, or withdraw respect. Machiavelli articulated this with precision. It is double pleasure to deceive the deceiver. His point: people derive satisfaction from exploiting weaknesses, particularly when you have carelessly delivered them the instrument. Let us acknowledge uncomfortable truth. Most people do not deserve comprehensive access to your emotional landscape, your intellectual processes, or your private existence. Only a select few, those who have genuinely earned your deepest confidence, warrant entry. Everyone else should encounter only what you deliberately choose to reveal. You must control the narrative. You must defend your inner kingdom as though defending a fortress from invasion. How do you eliminate these vulnerabilities? First, practice the discipline of restraint. Not every silence requires completion with explanations. Allow your words to carry impact through selectivity and intentionality. Second, regulate your emotional disclosures. You need not distribute your every frustration, melancholy, or rage like samples at a market. Train yourself to process your psychological turbulence privately rather than broadcasting it. Third, establish boundaries with yourself. Before you speak, execute this evaluation. Does this utterance strengthen my position or expose my vulnerability? If exposure results, withhold it. When you achieve mastery here, something remarkable occurs. People lose the ability to read you with ease. They cannot anticipate your responses. They cannot engineer your emotional reactions. They cannot weaponize your own words against you. You become enigmatic, composed, and genuinely untouchable. Therefore, declare this affirmation and write it in your daily reminders. I guard my power as a fortress defends its walls. Power emerges not merely from what you display, but from what you protect. Principle 5. Weaponize silence and composure. Machiavelli understood a principle that most overlook. Silence is not weakness. Composure is not absence of power. Indeed, silence and composure constitute two of the most potent instruments you will ever possess. Most individuals fail to comprehend this because they exist in a state of addiction to reactivity. They feel compelled to respond to every provocation, defend against every assault, and vocalize during every pause. Yet here rests the fundamental truth: whoever controls their silence commands the entire space. Recollect the last occasion when someone attempted to provoke you. Perhaps they elevated their voice. Perhaps they delivered an insult. Perhaps they endeavored to drag you into conflict. Had you answered with rage, you would have surrendered precisely what they sought: your energy, your engagement. But had you maintained perfect calm, met their intensity with unwavering composure, and responded with silence, the power dynamic would have inverted immediately. They anticipated confrontation. Instead, they encountered vacancy. That emptiness causes them discomfort, and discomfort renders them weak. Machiavelli grasped this equilibrium with extraordinary clarity. He offered this observation: the lion cannot protect himself from traps, and the fox cannot defend himself from wolves. The instruction is unmistakable. Sometimes genuine strength manifests not through roaring like a lion, but through patience, observation, and striking at the optimal moment. Like a fox employing cunning, silence accomplishes three critical functions. First, it fortifies you. You do not prematurely expose your emotional state or your intentions. You maintain mystery. Second, it disconcerts others. People expect reaction. When you provide none, they lose their balance and control. Third, it generates respect. Those who maintain calm under duress appear more formidable than those who surrender to panic. When you achieve mastery over silence, people begin to reconsider before testing your boundaries. When you cultivate perfect composure, you communicate to the world that no circumstance can destabilize you. In a society saturated with noise, the individual who maintains silence becomes the most commanding voice present. Understand, this silence does not mean inaction. It signifies the deliberate selection of your moment. It means listening with intensity, reading the situation with accuracy, and waiting until your communication or conduct will generate maximum effect. That constitutes authentic control. The next occasion someone attempts to draw you into turmoil, remember, your silence is not weakness. It is your protective shield. Your calm is not emptiness. It is your fortress. The individual who sustains composure when others surrender to chaos perpetually emerges victorious. Declare this affirmation: my silence is my greatest strength. Write it. Carry it. Once you internalize the power of silence and composure, no one can provoke you with ease. Principle 6. Perceive the reality beneath masks. Machiavelli taught that most individuals present a constructed image, not their authentic self. They speak honeyed words. They smile when they require something. They simulate loyalty as long as it serves their interests. Yet behind every smile resides intention. Behind every promise exists a concealed agenda. If you aspire to remain untouchable, you must abandon assessing people based on their words. Instead, assess them through their conduct. Machiavelli articulated this with particular clarity. Everyone sees what you appear to be. Few experience what you really are. People are architects of illusion. They construct an external presentation, a facade designed to impress or dominate. But the discerning individual penetrates deeper. He attends to patterns. He observes conduct. He examines choices, not merely declarations. Reflect on this scenario. A companion states, "I will always be present for you." Yet when genuine need arrives, they vanish. A professional colleague praises your labor in your presence, but behind your back attempts to claim your achievements as their own. The authentic nature of these individuals does not reside in their words. It manifests through their behavior. The instrument of penetration is observation. Do not hastily grant trust simply because someone articulates the appropriate sentiment. Monitor them across time. Examine how they treat others. Study their conduct when their own interests are not served. Verify whether their actions correspond to their promises. This is how you perceive authentic character beneath the constructed persona. Masks proliferate everywhere. Social media channels display manufactured perfection while concealing genuine struggle. Professional environments overflow with false smiles, artificial compliments, and simulated respect. Even intimate relationships feature masks when people pursue control, attention, or advantage. Yet, if you train your perception to see beyond the surface, no individual can successfully deceive you. The advantage of perceiving authentic nature is liberation. You will not be seduced by counterfeit affection. You will not experience shock from betrayal. You will not depend on fabrications. Rather, you will engage with reality, and reality, regardless of its darkness, always proves safer than existence within deception. How do you cultivate this perception? Simple. First, listen less. Observe more. Words deceive. Conduct reveals. Second, study patterns rather than isolated promises. One instance of aid means little. Consistent behavior reveals true character. Third, remember this principle: consistency unveils authentic nature. When someone's actions consistently contradict their words, you have encountered truth. Once you perceive authentic nature, deception becomes impossible. Once you see through the masks of the world, people lose their power to manipulate you. Repeat this affirmation. I perceive beneath the facade to authentic reality. Write it. Internalize it. The moment you begin seeing people's authentic nature, you reclaim your power. No mask in human existence can conceal itself from your discernment. Principle 7. Master trust and eliminate emotional dependency. Machiavelli understood that trust, while appearing beautiful, becomes a lethal instrument in unscrupulous hands. When people implore you to simply trust me, those words frequently serve to disable your defenses. When you trust without scrutiny, you surrender your power. You deliver someone else the keys to your consciousness, your secrets, and potentially your destiny. Machiavelli cautioned us with this observation. The promise given was a necessity of the past. The word broken is a necessity of the present. People modify their conduct when their circumstances shift. The danger transcends merely placing confidence in others. The genuine peril emerges from developing emotional dependency on them. When your contentment, self-worth, or direction becomes contingent upon another person, you have conceded control over your existence. They can elevate you with a compliment or devastate you through indifference. You become their marionette without acknowledging it. In the architecture of power, dependency constitutes weakness. Conceptualize it in these terms: whoever you depend upon becomes your sovereign. If you cannot separate from someone without fragmenting, you lack control. They possess it. This illuminates why betrayal inflicts such anguish. It is not merely the individual's conduct. It represents the power you unknowingly transferred to them. The wiser approach is equilibrium. You may engage with people, but your emotional equilibrium must remain independent of them. You may care, but your identity must not become tethered to them. Preserve always a portion of yourself that remains untouchable. Here exist practical strategies. First, restrict your self-disclosure. Maintain portions of your existence as private. Information is leverage. Second, observe how people treat your confidence in minor matters before granting them access to significant matters. Their treatment of small trust predicts their handling of larger trust. Third, construct your personal foundation independently. Develop self-respect. Cultivate self-discipline. Pursue your ambitions. Ensure you never depend upon another for your psychological stability. Trust is not blind faith. Trust is calculated risk. Distribute it gradually. Test it perpetually. Never deposit your entire self into another's custody. Machiavelli possessed profound knowledge of human nature. People consistently prioritize their interests. Forget this principle, and disappointment will follow repeatedly. Remember it, and you become virtually unconquerable. Declare this affirmation: I grant trust with deliberation, and I never allow myself to depend entirely upon anyone. Write it. Let it serve as your daily reminder. The less you depend on others, the more impenetrable you become. That represents authentic power. Principle 8. Master yourself to master your world. Every remarkable empire, every genuine dominion, originates from a single foundation: control. Not control imposed upon others, not control of external circumstances, but control over oneself. If you cannot govern your own consciousness, emotions, and patterns, you remain imprisoned, even if no physical chains restrain you. Machiavelli wrote, "The one who adapts his policy to the times prospers." What does this signify for you? The truly formidable individual is not the one who shouts most loudly or appears most intimidating. The formidable individual possesses the capacity to adapt, to maintain control, and to discipline himself regardless of which storm arrives. Examine this reality. The world perpetually tests you. People will demean you. Life will deliver setbacks. If your internal foundation is fragile, you will disintegrate under pressure. But if you have trained your consciousness to maintain calm, if you have conditioned your body to withstand difficulty, and if you have disciplined yourself when others lose authority over themselves, you achieve victory. You do not merely endure. You predominate. Mastering yourself encompasses 3 essential dimensions. First, command your emotions. Do not permit anger, envy, or fear to determine your choices. When emotions govern, clarity vanishes. Imagine a colleague insults you professionally. Should you explode in fury, you appear weak. Should you maintain perfect calm, you retain advantage. Silence becomes power. Second, discipline your patterns. Authority does not materialize instantaneously. It emerges through continuous small acts of discipline. Rising early, completing what you initiate, strengthening your body, sharpening your intellect. These constitute the materials constructing your fortress. Weak individuals permit their impulses to dictate their conduct. Formidable individuals dictate terms to their impulses. As third, strengthen your independence. Refuse to allow your contentment to depend upon approval, recognition, or external rewards. The moment you require external validation for peace, you become fragile. Construct your worth from within. When you comprehend your authentic nature, nobody can destabilize you. Here resides the fundamental truth. If you cannot command yourself, someone else will. A superior, a romantic partner, an acquaintance, even strangers. They will recognize your weakness and exploit it. Yet, when you achieve mastery over yourself, the dynamic transforms entirely. People respect you because they cannot bend you. They admire you because you do not break. Imagine yourself as the sovereign of an inner kingdom. Your thoughts constitute your citizens. Your emotions function as your soldiers. Your patterns form your laws. If your kingdom descends into chaos, how can you ever command anything external? Yet if your kingdom maintains strength, order, and discipline, nothing and nobody can destabilize your throne. You have witnessed it. You have absorbed it. Genuine power does not emanate from noise, spectacle, or approval. Authentic power originates from your consciousness, your will, and the selections you execute when nobody observes you. Remember this principle. Nobody can touch you without your permission. No words can fracture you if you govern your reactions. No betrayal can shake you if you depend exclusively upon yourself. Each movement toward self-mastery, emotional governance, and strategic intelligence constructs a fortress that nobody can penetrate. Life will perpetually present tests. People will attempt to manipulate you, disappoint you, provoke you. This remains inevitable. But here emerges the distinctions. The untouchable individual perceives clearly, experiences feeling without subjugation, and executes without dread. He does not pursue power. He embodies it. Machiavelli expressed it most precisely. Men shrink less from offending one who makes them fear than one who makes them hope. Humanity respects authority, command, and lucidity. When you cease granting them leverage over your consciousness, when you cease bartering your equilibrium for their opinion, you transcend them all. Therefore, commence today. Commit yourself to this path. Defend your emotions. Reinforce your consciousness. Investigate people. Anticipate their motives. Conduct yourself with intention. Construct your inner fortress as though your existence depends upon it, because authentically it does. Declare your chosen affirmation aloud. Write it. Internalize it until it becomes integrated into your identity. Say these truths. I am stronger than any emotion that seeks control. I perceive authentic truth. I command my world. Like, share, subscribe. If this presentation granted you lucidity, authority, or courage, transmit these principles forward. Since the moment you master yourself, nothing external possesses the capacity to disturb you again. Walk from this message untouchable, silent, commanding, powerful, and remember your legacy commences with command over yourself. Nothing and nobody will ever shake that again.